travel. It means that you will have to get a PCR test if you're returning from abroad, even if it's not a red list country. Meanwhile, British Airways has suspended flights to Hong Kong amid reports more of its crew members have been forced to quarantine in a government centre there. Let's talk about all of this to Julia Bue-Said, Chief Executive of Advantage Travel Partnerships, which represents travel agencies across the UK. Hi, Julia.
Good morning.
First of all, the PCR tests then for anyone coming in from anywhere abroad, how much is that going to impact?
It's really the operational challenges, Rachel, that are going to have a bigger impact, particularly if you were travelling back into the UK over the next few days. You've booked your lateral flow, which is the current requirement, which is as it is today, current requirements for vaccinated travellers. You now find that you're going to have to. That's no longer suitable, and you're going to have to pre-book a PCR test, and you have to pre-book that, even if you're doing them at home, before you can complete your passenger locator form, which also needs to be completed before you travel. So the impact is in the next few days. Operationally, it's going to be a challenge for some consumers. And also the other big impact after that is really one, the cost isn't so much an issue. Prices have come down, but it will be the need to self-isolate at home until you get your test result through.
I do know people who've travelled abroad, and actually the whole process of doing the PCR is a bit of a faff. And I do wonder also whether the private companies, because you can't get these free on the NHS, as you say, but whether the private companies are geared up for the extra numbers that are going to require them with all the extra Christmas travel over the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And when we saw the private companies, scale up over the summer, travel at this time of year is less than the summer capacity. But absolutely, they've kind of scaled down because we've not needed as much over the last couple of months since the rules changed again. But yes, we are going to need them to ensure that they can provide them at the time that the passengers need them.
Well, A, provide the tests, and B, get the results back quickly enough so people aren't having to isolate for days and days.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and something the industry can't control. And one thing that we really are keen for the government to consider for the next 3 weeks while they're reviewing this is to enable travellers to use the NHS tests. But firstly, because of that, exactly what you've said, the turnaround time. But also, we do know that the NHS capacity to undertake genomic sequencing, which the government are really keen to track, is much better capability than the private test providers. So that's a really important point that we want to stress that government to look at over the next few weeks.
Well, I mean, if you came back and you had any kind of symptoms anyway, you would be entitled to a PCR test on the NHS, wouldn't you?
You would do after a positive test. Yes, you would do.
In general terms, how are your members looking at the season ahead? Because presumably they would see this as a time to try and recoup some of the losses over the last year or two.
Yeah, I probably can't stress enough how challenging the last 20 months have been for our sector. Unlike every other economic sector, we've really not had the opportunity to fully recover. Things were looking better. There were plans in place for Christmas, for New Year, and we're approaching a really busy time for travel. And also for customers to think about what they'd like to do for next summer. January is a really important time for that. So we are trying to remain very hopeful. I'm hoping these next 3 weeks enable us to get the virus under control, show that the vaccine programme has really worked, and that we can help consumers think about those plans for the next couple of months.
Thank you so much. Good luck, Julia. I know in a never-changing world, it's really challenging for you and all your members. Julia Bue-Said from the group Advantage Travel Partnerships. It is 6:50.